Today, we are going to learn about sea stars. And they're just such interesting creatures. And I have a picture here. Let's give us a picture. These, now they don't move very much. They actually do move. When we look at them in the tide pools, we think that they're just always in the same spot, but they're really not. They move really slowly, and they have like little feet that move. Their feet actually move them ever so slowly. When we see them in the tide pools like this, they just look like they almost don't even look like they're an animal. They're just kind of sitting there. But they're actually really interesting. They have, they do a lot of things. They eat all kinds of things. They actually have a protruding stomach that eats things. So one of the things I wanted to show you here, these are the tide pools. And this is how we frequently get to see them, the tide pools in California. I wanted to show you. Here's my friend here. Now, of course, this one is dead, right? They do die. It has a very rough outer, the texture on the outside. It's protective. But look here on the inside. This is the under part of it. It actually, if this was alive, it would look obviously different. But when it is going to have dinner and eat a mussel or a clam, it takes its arms, and it has little suction cups on the arms and can actually hold on to something like a clam or a mussel, and it opens it up a little bit, and the stomach comes out and digests the inside of the clam or the mussel like that. And then on this side here, that's the really interesting part. The other part here is that on the ends, it has like eyes, not like we have eyes, but at the ends of its arms, the radius here, it can tell light and dark. Is what it can do. It can tell light and dark. So this is such an interesting creature, and it's really simple for us to be doing, okay? Really simple. What we're going to need is, just as usual, a pencil, an eraser. I would like you to have a Sharpie. And now this is what I'd like us to be using today. If you have watercolors, that would be awesome. If you also have chalk, like sidewalk chalk, especially the bright kinds like these here, I would like you to use those, okay? If not, we're just gonna do it either in crayon or more watercolor. You could still use crayons for the whole thing. Crayons are wonderful. So let's start. We're gonna start here by, see how simple this is. Today is very, very simple. So I'm gonna take our creature here, there, and what you're going to need is your pencil, right? Good. And then I'm going to just do a small circle here, just a small, actually I'm going to do mine with my charcoal so you all can see this better, okay? So I'm doing a small circle like that, and then I'm going to do a much larger circle around it like that, a much larger circle around it like that, right? Okay, and that way what we're able to do is create the center part, and now we're going to be putting the legs in. But I'm just going to start like this. Let's pretend there's a dot in the middle, and do one arm up. Think of it like almost like a person. So that would be maybe the head. This would be maybe an arm, another arm, and then legs. Right? Like that, right? Oh, good. And so the next part we're going to do here, let's keep it right here. Hello, you are so good. Let's just have it be right there for us. The next thing we're going to do is actually come over here and create how the arms are, the radius are here, how these arms are extended out here. If you go over the edge a little bit of that circle, that's fine, but you have to at least go to the edge, if not more, right? There. That's a kind of a skinny one, but I'm okay with that. Now, the next thing, this is the fun, this is a quick lesson, right? A very quick lesson. The next thing I just want you to do now is just erase. Oh, no. Ooh. Sharpie. Let's come back over here just on the outside with your Sharpie. Just here we go, outside. And what I have on here is aquarium music. I don't know if any of you have been to an aquarium. We have the Monterey Bay Aquarium here in California. And they have so many creatures in there, including sea stars. And they play kind of sweet music. Now we're going to erase. Okay, now I have a lot of these guiding lines here. I put them in charcoal, so it's a little harder for me to erase, but you won't have any trouble with just your pencil, right? So I want to erase this because the next thing we're going to do is put some texture on. And it has that wonderful texture to it. It's kind of bumpy and rough, and it protects it. There. So do the best you can to erase these lines here. I'm going to do a better job in a minute here. And we don't need the insides anymore. If we were actually turning it around, you could see that it has like these designs on it, but we're actually going to do it while we're actually looking down on it, right? Now, the next thing I'd like to do here, I'm actually going to take a shortcut, and I think you can too. I would like to give us the design on here, and it's just kind of fun. Watch, you just go wiggle wiggle and make a whole bunch of funny little shapes that are all going to come together. Yeah, because look, there's no defined thing. Like some animals, like a zebra, it's pretty clear. It just have stripes, but this is not. This is just a roughness. We're going to create the look of a texture, which is kind of bumps. This is bumps, right? So I'm just going to create a bunch of these, and go ahead, just use your Sharpie. Because there's no reason why you need to do the pencil first in this case. But I'm really, doesn't matter. It's not that I'm doing circles. I'm doing bumpy shapes. They're bumpy shapes because actually those, if you pet one of these, they're kind of bumpy, right? And so it's not the circle. So fill this up with these shapes here. There we go. And some are little, don't get too big though, because the purpose of this is to create a texture area. There. Now, one of the things that's so interesting about sea stars is, first of all, they're everywhere. There's all kinds of sea stars. This is the kind that we have here. They're kind of usually orangey. They all, but there's sea, and they have the most common sea star has the 5 arms, right? The 5 arms. And I think it's really interesting that their tummy comes out and then eats things, which is pretty interesting. I'm glad my tummy doesn't do that. Yeah, but the other part is that knowing that they walk, they actually do move. They are animals. They definitely move. Sea stars have been around a very long time. And they like to live with other things. You find sea stars with anemones, sea anemones, which are also another creature, and they don't eat them. The sea anemones protect themselves, but you see them all clumped together sometimes in the tidal zones, in the tide pools. Now look, this is pretty good, just like this. Okay. The next thing I want us to do, I'm gonna actually have us really erase. You're gonna do a good job erasing, and I'm gonna show you how we can make the rocks behind it look fun with our chalk. So while I'm doing this extra erasing in here, and you are too, I want you to make sure, I'm gonna come back, and you're gonna have some chalk if you have it, and if not, just the watercolor. Okay, so good. We'll be right back. Yay. Oh, we're back. You know what I forgot to do? I forgot to show us pictures of our creatures. So I'm going to do that now. But look at this. You can see what this has lost because it's dead is the color, but the texture is still here, right? So this is the most common one that I see around here. But yes, indeed, there can be some other colors too. And I want you to see that they really have a lot of creatures and things that live with them. All kinds of little seaweeds, and there's some mussels, although that's dinner. Barnacles, all kinds of things. Sea anemones. And look, doesn't it look like it's walking? And it is. It's going to be walking. But they don't just have their arms out like this all the time. They actually have them curled under, and they're doing different things. So they're very much alive and active. They're just slow compared with us. Here's the sea anemones. They clearly like to be around sea anemones because I find them often like that. And sea anemones can definitely take care of themselves. And we're going to have another show about those. So here we are. And here's a whole bunch of rocks that you'd find in the intertidal zone. And so here's this. This one would be, see, this is quite dead. And if you turn this one around, that would be where the little tummy would be, right? That, they eat things. So here we are, a quickie thing here. So here's our shapes here. Here's the mouth with the tummy. It pushes it out to get the food, right? The suckers at the, or the tube feet that kind of move it along, right, like that. Yeah, tube feet. These are rays, and it's got a tough skin. Let's see what else to say about these. And then the eyes, let's see, here it is, right. The eye spot at the tip of each arm. Isn't that interesting? Yay! So here we go. So the next thing I'm going to have us do, I want to show you how much fun it is for me to use chalk. If you don't have chalk, go ahead, just use crayons. It's totally fine. But look, I have all this chalk. I'm just going to take a whole armful of chalk out of here. There we go. All different colors, because the truth is the environment and the tidal pool can be all different colors. It could have maybe some algae in there, right? A little, or some seaweed. So I'm just taking the chalk, and I'm actually putting it directly onto paper. I frequently don't do that, right? But in this case, and then I'm taking another one, and I really like how you can just kind of pop around and start giving a texture look. Look, I might even include a little blue, because these are going to be, we're going to blend this. So I have a tiny bit of blue maybe. Look at this. I'm just coming in here and looking at all my possible choices. I don't want it to be too dark. I just want to create the look of a little bit of texture, because that's what it is. I'm even using a little whitish or grayish that'll kind of blend some of this together. Do you see I just grabbed a bunch of chalk and put it out here? These are like pastels, but I just grabbed a bunch, and I'm going to come back in here, and I'm okay with creating some dark and light zones, right? Because that's how it is. And so I just wanted to create the feeling that we have some textures back here, right? And let's see, what could be the last one here, like that. Okay, there. Now, watch this. What we're going to do is take a paper towel like this, and I'm going to take a piece off of it, and I'm just going to fold it in on itself like this, right? And I'm hopping. I do not want to spread this around. I want to keep that texture looking like a texture like it was on the rocks. And rocks have dark spots and light spots, and there's a texture to them. They're rough, So you know what? I'm just hopping around, and I'm going to keep that like that, because this is kind of abstract. There we go. And the next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to take our watercolors. Remember our watercolors here? Right? I'm going to take our watercolors, and I'm going to take and make sure that I already have some water on them. And I'm going to take a slightly lighter color to start with. A color like this. Take a slightly lighter color to start with. I'm going to make these ones orangey, right? Because those are the ones I see most commonly. But honestly, they're all different colors. But, this is common, and kind of what I think of a typical sea star. So here's what I'm doing. I'm just making sure I have a very light background here. Very, very light. And I don't need to fill it all up, because the next thing I'm going to do is do something a little bit darker, right? mix my colors a little bit darker. Yeah, doesn't have to be throughout the whole thing. And now I'm going to head towards my orange. Right, and I'm going to make sure I have a little orange in here. I really just want to mix my colors a little bit, even though it's just kind of basically a very simple creature, which, for drawing it is, but just create some colors, because really when the lights and the darks, when the light comes, it plays with the shadowing, and we just want to kind of make sure we have a different look to all these parts here. Yeah, so some of it's more orange and some of it's more yellow. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. This is not a hard one. This is an easy one. Sea Stars is a great name. You know what? I'm going to say this is done. This was a simple one, a really simple one. And there you are, a sea star that uses its tummy that comes out of its body to eat. That is pretty wild. Good job. Awesome.